Hey, welcome back, or welcome if this is the first time listening. I appreciate you joining me on the Grit and Grace podcast. I'm here every Thursday with a new episode. Sometimes it's just, science and informative stuff. Other times it's just girl talk, but it's all for the over 40, especially over 50. You need to be listening, female, who is just at a different stage in life, right? And so it's all wellness. Everything falls under the wellness umbrella. That can be physical wellness, weight loss, feeling comfortable in your own skin, tightening, toning, all the things, right? And it can also, I talk a lot about mental wellness and emotional health. So yeah, join me every Thursday. So today, let me back up a second. I had an experience yesterday that really brought me to this topic today. And that experience was this. I went to have a medical grade facial. I've never had one before. Props to you if you are already doing this. But I've had like a spa facial, which I think is more like a pampering kind of experience than it is that it actually does anything for your skin. If you're out there and you do spa facials, you either give them or you go have them done. Let me know if I'm wrong, but it always just feels like, a really good face washing, a face massage, probably some toner and moisturizer kinds of things. But I don't necessarily feel a difference beyond the experience, right? Like my skin doesn't really feel different or any of that. I went and had a medical grade facial yesterday. It was called a Diamond Glow facial, and there are various medical grade different kinds of facials. I talked with the girl who did mine about two options, basically. One that's called a Diamond Glow facial and another one that is called a Hydra facial. And because I have mature skin and fine lines and some dark spots and things like that, we chose the Diamond Glow. So I did that, and then I did the dermabrasion, which I did admit to her that I have done the home, what do you call it? Microablation or whatever, where you take the razor and, the razors that you buy off of Amazon and you shave your face to get the peach fuzz. I've had peach fuzz since I was a young kid, but it seems to be more like ugly now. Anyway, I've done that at home, but I had a professional do it, and total difference. Oh my gosh, night and day difference from taking the little Amazon razor and shaving your face versus going and having it done professionally. Anyway, so I had this medical grade facial slash microblading. That's what it's called, microblading. And when I go in, really nice young woman named Lindsay. Shout out to Lindsay. God knows she's not listening to an over 40 female podcast. But anyway, she's wonderful, professional, just great personality, extremely informative and educated in the science of what she does. And she was explaining the things to me, and we were picking what would be best for my skin. And that experience made me realize once again, and I've had a couple of these experiences, but it made me realize once again how freaking old I am. So here's the thing. I have come to this realization just like this year. It's cropped up a few times. I've come to this realization that somehow or another, like 25 years have passed me by, and I didn't really pay attention too much to the fact that I'm not 30 anymore. And yeah, I know that sounds crazy, right? But hear me out on this. So I really have lived the last 25 years outside of some experiences like weight loss things that have gone on that I talked to you guys about a lot. In my early 40s, things had changed physically. I knew they had. I had to, figure out a way to tap into hormone imbalance and metabolic imbalance and get that weight off. But even then, I'm going to be super honest, even then I felt 30. Like in my mind, in my brain, as twisted as it may sound to you, I still think of myself as like 30, 31, 32 max. Now, I realize I'm not like mentally ill to the point that I don't know that's not my reality. I mean, I have a daughter who is creeping up to 30 pretty soon. So there's no physical way that I could be that age. But in my brain, that's how old I still am. And in this last year, there have been a few things that have happened that have made me take pause and go, oh shit, like I'm not 30 anymore. Roger and I have talked about this several different times. And I think I'm just getting to that age, and we're getting to that age where a couple of things have happened, and it's just time where things do happen, and it makes you kind of go, oh yeah, like I'm going to be 55 in a couple of months, right? So back to yesterday. It was another one of those kind of, oh my gosh, give myself pause. I'm talking to Lindsay, she's sharing with me the different benefits of, this kind of a facial versus that kind of a facial. And I'm thinking, well, I have all of those problems, Lindsay. The dry skin, the dark patches, the sun damage, the wrinkles, the fine lines, all the things, the need for hydration, like all the things you're saying, are benefits of this one versus that one. Can I get like a combo Hydra Diamond Glow both facial? And I joke, but as she's talking, and then she starts to, share about her own life and how, she's gotten married in the last year, and she, was a very sweet girl. And talked about how, they don't have any kids yet and they're thinking about kids. And as I'm talking to her about those things, it hits me like these are none of the issues, none of the concerns, none of the worries, none of the planning that she's talking about is relative to my life anymore. Like those were things I thought about, contemplated, worried about, decided 25 plus years ago. And I, again, like kind of go, oh, yeah, like this is so far removed from my life because I am so much older. Like I am not this young woman's contemporary. I would not be her like in her friend group, right? I am like probably older than her mom. And it just like, and I'm laying there and I'm thinking, like, I'm the old lady. If I give her quote unquote advice, not that she asked me for advice and she doesn't need any, she's living a lovely life and making wonderful decisions about her life. But I'm thinking anybody her age, when they talk to me, I could give like the wisdom, right? And I joke about it, but it's an unusual mental space to be in. It is really almost kind of like a hit in the face, like a wake up moment, right? Where I feel 30, but I'm not. And once again, I'm kind of coming and let me put a footnote here before I go any longer. I'm glad that I'm not that age. So, when she and other young people that I'm around talk about, planning on having children and deciding when to have children. And we've had this conversation even with like our older daughter and her now husband. And our younger daughter has decided she's not having children, but our older daughter, is still contemplating. And so when we've had those conversations with, other young people in our lives, I realize how I'm also really glad not to be there. And so that's really what I want to talk to you about, is that it can be kind of a smack in the face to recognize that you're in your 50s. It can be kind of almost like a bombshell, which it shouldn't because we've lived the years, right? But you do come to these spaces, I think, at this stage in life where you go, holy shit, yeah, like I'm what I would have thought of as old. When I was 30, when I think about who the people were in my life at that time who were in their 50s, I kind of thought of them as older, right? And now I'm the old one. But here's the beauty in it. The beauty is that we've raised our kids. We don't have to look to a future of deciding when we're going to have kids, if we're going to have kids, and the weight of all of the worry and the concerns that come with that in today's world. And I'll just be really honest, I don't envy young women for several reasons around this issue of to have children, not to have children, when to have children. One, and I don't want to get into a lot of political views, but I will say women's rights are being threatened in this country. And whether you are pro-life or pro-choice really doesn't matter in terms of what I'm talking about. I don't care where you fall on that issue. The fact that you don't have the right to choose as a woman what to do with your body is a very scary thing. I think about my daughters and how different their life is in terms of controlling their own fertility choices. In today's world, it is unbelievably to me, it is less of a choice for women than even when I was in my 20s and early 30s. And that scares me. So for that reason, I would not want to be 28, 30 years old and be in this society and having to decide if I'm going to have children or concern myself around preventing pregnancy if I'm not ready and I'm not trying. That's one reason. I cannot imagine the concern, the energy that goes into making sure you do not get pregnant or having to make those heavy decisions around when it's right for you and your partner to make that choice to have children. Another reason is raising kids now is totally different from raising kids when you and I did it. Like it's even different from, when my daughter, I think about our youngest daughter graduated in 2014. Her high school years were tough enough, right? There were kids doing drugs and she would tell me all kinds of things, and there was bullying, and she was even the target of some really intense bullying her junior or senior year, her senior year. And I mean, she was a softball player, and I won't go into that whole story, but there was, we found out after the fact that the head softball coach was, I'll say allegedly, but I guess it's not alleged because he was arrested and convicted. But anyway, not to get in trouble. Allegedly, after the fact, we found out that he was having a relationship with one of her teammates, and one of her teammates was kind of an instigator in a bullying situation that allegedly he told the young girl to bully Emily. So, all of that to say, it was hard enough when she was in school. Young girls, teenage girls can be vicious toward one another. That was hard enough, like I said, when she was in school. I cannot freaking imagine being the mother of teenage girls now, right? I have friends who have girls who are in high school, and I commend them, big props to anybody who has teenagers, anybody who has kids, period. It's a hard freaking job, but in particular, moms of teenage girls, I think, and I'm biased, but I've got girls and boys. So I think I can say this with some degree, from some degree of experience. It's harder to raise girls. To me, there were more worries around raising girls. It was just harder. The dynamics of those relationships were harder. And so I cannot imagine having kids now and looking forward to the future of raising kids. The world is just different too. My kids had cell phones once they were in high school, but I didn't have the experience of having young kids with the social media and the desire, and friends having cell phones and friends having social media accounts, and just all the influx of those outside influences. Navigating that as a parent is a freaking nightmare, it feels like to me. So there is all that stuff around parenting. And let's not even get into the cost of college and private schools and lessons. If your kids play sports or take, music lessons or any of that, oh my God, my kids probably wouldn't get to do shit. But anyway, so that whole like issue around parenthood, I'm so glad to be done with that, aren't you? Then, some of the other things are just like, I'm really glad not to be young in my relationship. Those first years, first off, I've been very open about the fact that, Roger and I, this is not our first marriage for either one of us. And so we've been married and divorced. I've been married and divorced twice, actually. I had one of those very, young, short-lived kinds of marriages when I was in college. And it was, I joke about it being a completely different human being. I don't know who that was, who married the first time. But seriously, you change so much over the years that it really was like a whole different person who made that decision. But nonetheless, those younger years and being, you think that and you don't know shit. And you make big life decisions from a place of inexperience and, quite frankly, ignorance. I'll speak for myself. I made some of the dumbest decisions in my early 20s that anybody could make, just really dumb decisions. And of course I look back and those are all the things that got me to where I am today. But I am really glad not to be dealing with relationship issues and choices about dating and marrying and all of that kind of unsettled, what feels like, looking back, like chaotic time, right? I like being comfortable in who I am, in who I love, not having any concern about his support and his love. And it's just a really good place to be in a very mature relationship. Whether you're married or not, to be mature and have a mature relationship is a very comfortable position. And I don't mean comfortable in the sense that you get lazy and you lay down on your relationship and you don't make sure that you're attentive to each other and respect each other. And that's different. That is a whole different topic. I'm talking about being with somebody for so long, knowing that you can count on them, knowing that you are wise enough that now your choices to be together are out of respect and a deep appreciation and out of support for one another. Oh my gosh, it's just like, you take a sigh of relief. I do, when I think about the comfort level of that, right? And then I also am super glad to be on this side of that phase of life, because while, I talk all the time about the horrors of hormones, right? And how our body is betraying us and how our metabolism is out of whack. But if you're healthy, if you have figured it out, and I won't say that I have figured everything out, but I have damn sure figured out a lot. And I help other women figure it out. And if you are in a place where you have figured it out so that you are comfortable in your body and you are confident, relatively speaking, about how you look, and you feel good in your clothes and you feel good in your skin and you're healthy physically, there's a real in standing in this space, right? Like, I walk into a room and I don't give a shit what people think. I'm not worried about which girls are looking at me and if I look, as good as the next woman, or, all those things that kind of like those insecurities that crept up when they did for me. When I was a teenager, I was so insecure. In my 20s, I was so insecure about my body. I didn't know who I was. It made me so uncomfortable physically and mentally. And if you are someone who has figured this shit out by this time, you can just, again, breathe that sigh of relief, because we don't have those worries. Now, all of this is predicated on the fact that I'm talking from a position of being healthy and not wanting to still figure it out and not still like struggling on a deep level where I'm unhappy, right? And so I recognize that there's a little privilege in what I'm saying. The comfort comes with the privilege of being in this space now. But I'll tell you this, part of why I want to talk about it is if you do not look at those 28, 30, 32-year-olds, even 35-year-old women, if you don't look at them and go, dang, I am really glad that I'm not there making those decisions and still having all that growth to make. If you're not in that mindset, let me tell you how amazing it is to be in this mindset. And I think it is all the more reason for you to really wholeheartedly pursue your health, because it is available to you to sit here and say, I'm in my 50s and I wouldn't go back to being 28 or 30 for any amount of money in the world. And I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. I am grateful for all the lessons that I learned, but I damn sure would not go back and have to live through those battles, wage that war. Like I would not do it again, you guys. And I think I can stand here and say that because life is good. At almost 55, my body feels good. Sure, I have to, maintain it a little bit better, not to wake up with the aches and the pains, but I'm so much wiser, so much healthier, mentally and physically, in so much more of a comfortable space that while I'm like, oh shit, I'm not 30 anymore, I'm also like, oh shit, I am not 30 anymore. And I'm glad. So I hope this episode gives you a chuckle. I hope it gives you some food for a thought. And if you're not in a space, like I said, where you can go, yeah, like I get it, and I'm right there with you, sister. If you're not there, I really encourage you to think about how you can get here. Join me. It is so much better on this side. Promise you. Mwah! You guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you right back here next time.